Alright, we're on.
Alright, hello, my name is Turnbull, and today I will be talking about the senior capstone class that I took at the University of Mount Union on racism. So, every year seniors take classes on issues that we find important in the world that we don't necessarily talk about all the time. I took a class on racism. Racism is a topic that we don't necessarily talk about a lot, due in part to the difficulty of speaking about it and the argumentative side that it happens, but that has bred a society of confusion, apathy, and ignorance on the subject, and that is hurting many people. Throughout this class we learned several things, and I wanted to talk about 5 points that I learned that I wish I had learned a little earlier in my academic and just life in general. The first one I wanted to talk about was one of the first things we discussed in class, and it deals with genetics. In school and when I was a kid, we are kind of taught to believe that genetics plays a bigger role in our lives than it actually does. We use race as a way to differentiate ourselves from each other and to hurt each other, and there is no basis in that in genetics. We watched a video called Are We Bigots? From the Through the Whirlpool series, and we found that people are almost identically similar. There are very few genetic markers that differentiate between race, and there are very few markers that differentiate between anyone. They did a study where they took a high school class and they did a genetics test and found that that they were all mostly similar. People that were different colors, different ethnicities, they shared almost exactly the same DNA and genetic markers. This is important because we use genetics, we use the color of our skin, we use our biology to assume that we're different. Every argument that we've heard on why races are different and why they're superior often leads to that they are somehow just genetically better, and that's just wrong. The second point I wanted to talk about was this idea of global supremacy. We did another presentation throughout the class, and one of the points that I talked about was this idea of global supremacy. One of the first things I found was a map. This map was coded to every country that has not been controlled by a European or Russian country throughout its history. And only 3 countries have never had any sort of control from a European white country. And I was wondering why this was important. The idea that white countries have maintained such control over every single part of the world has bred this idea of white supremacy, this idea that if you're white, the things you do, the way you act is considered normal. You don't have to think about the things you say, you don't have to think about the things you do, because in society we determine that it's okay. The problem is that it's not. We see these things as being such a huge barrier, and we see these things as, we see even just people's hairstyles, people's hair colors, and just everything as being different, and we discriminate and we make these prejudices against them even though there shouldn't be any basis. However, our history has determined that there is a history of it and that there is an issue with it. So if we want to become a more equal society and a more diverse society, we have to learn that the white life is not the only societal norm. The third point I wanted to talk about was this idea of the bystander effect. The bystander effect is essentially this idea that if you are in a group and you see something is wrong, you do not assume that you have to do anything about it. So I'm a lifeguard. I have been a lifeguard for over 7 years. I've been through training about 3 times, and one of the first things you're told is when you ask someone to call 911, you say, please call 911. Not, can someone please call 911, because people don't assume they have to do anything. And this applies quite a bit to race. You see these things are happening, you see the discrimination, you see the issues in the society, but as a person you don't think you have to do anything about it because it's not your fight. It's not your job to fight for these people, it's not your job to advocate for these people, which is wrong. every social movement we've ever had in this country relies on the fact that people in power, whether it be racial, gender, sexual orientation, or anything, the people that have the power need to help the people that don't. Because if it's simply just the people that don't have this power and the people that are fighting for this equality, they'll never be able to get it, because it would just be an us versus them mentality. So I found this especially important because we, as a people, don't like to get involved in other things. We don't like to be involved in other people's issues because they're their own. We are an individualistic society that determines that we need to just be alone. But that's just not the case. In order to create change, we need to help the others that are trying to create it as we speak. The fourth point I wanted to talk about was this idea of equality versus equity. As I learned it before, it was equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. The idea is, should people be given an equal chance just at the very start? Should they be allowed to just come up to the starting line? Or do we help them so that they actually have a chance of finishing the race and even the same sphere as everyone else? We don't quite notice that there are more than just problems of, do you get to be on the starting line? You don't notice that people are dealing with wealth inequality, gender inequality, housing inequality, and all of these different things, so that people who make this argument that equality of opportunity is enough, they're just wrong, because they refuse to see that there are more issues. Equity is something that people generally fear, because to them it's, people are getting these programs that help them but somehow hurt me, and that's not true. It's not hurting you because you have already benefited from this idea of white privilege, this idea of being of the societal norm that allows you to benefit from all of the programs that have come before you. So, in learning in this class, I would have loved to learn before that equity isn't a harm to myself. It's not a harm to my parents, it's not a harm to anyone that thinks it's a harm. It's merely trying to help people that do not get help in the most normal of ways. The last thing I wanted to talk about was something that encompasses kind of all the points I've made. It's a simple statement: ignorance and apathy are the destroyers of progress. We have watched a lot of videos through our class, and there was a common theme through several of them. We saw these people talking and rallying against progress because they wanted to save their culture and save what they believe is their history. The problem is that history is rampant with death and destruction and violence, but they just seem to forget that. People walk through the streets with a Nazi symbol on their shoulder. They walk through the streets in protest of Confederate monuments, and they refuse to believe that on the other side of that history are millions more that are suffering, and that by keeping these monuments, by adhering to these ideologies, you are hurting those people continuously. So the one thing, probably the biggest thing that I took away from this class is that education is the most important factor. If you understand the history that you have, if you understand the problems that people have in this life, then you can work to change them. And then I think that is it, so I will hand it off to my friend.
So before I start talking about diversity, racism, and what I have learned from the class, I would like to ask you guys, have any one of you guys been treated differently or unfairly in your life? Alright, so racism, maybe most of you guys do not realize how racism has caused the death of many lives. Racism has hurt so many people's feelings. Racism is a huge issue this world is facing right now. Even though it has been racism, we have had racism for many years. Many people think that no more people are racist, but even the people around you, people near to your houses, neighbors, community, there are racist people, even though they don't realize that they're racist. They do racist acts. They're racist to people of color where they don't realize it. As an example, like some people seeing a black man or a people of color crossing the street, and they'll be saying, like, some people will be just afraid. And like this doesn't mean like every black guy is like a bad guy, every person is a bad person. It's all about the history, stereotype people have, people they hear from the media. Not everything we hear from the media is a true thing. As a person who came from Saudi Arabia, yes sir.
For example, just because knowing that if you see one of you guys walking down the street, we're gonna think that you have a bomb on you.
This is it.
You see, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to make it a joke with that. Just you guys.
That's right. I have had people saying to me, like, or even being afraid that I'm from Saudi Arabia or I'm from the Middle East.
Yeah.
They'll be thinking that I'm terrorist. They'll be thinking that I'm going to be killing Christian people, killing white people, killing different people.
Yeah.
And this is not true. This is all about the media, all about the stereotyping, all about the bad people. We have in Islam, we have ISIS, which they think they are representing Islam, but they're using the Islam the wrong way. Where KKK is a Christian group, and they're thinking they're representing Christianity, but they're killing innocent people, same as ISIS. So this doesn't mean that every religious group representing their religion. There are nice people in every religion. There are nice people in the whole world. And the main thing we need to do, all as a community, as people, as humans, we need to change people's thoughts. We need to change racist people by trying, even if it takes years. We should keep trying and change people's ideas about racism. In Dr. Lyon's class, we have watched a video. It was about the godmother of rock and roll. She's a black singer. She was back in the time, she was a singer, and she was a woman and black. So back then there was racism about black people and women in general, but she was fighting her way. She was trying so hard, and she made the whole community like her. Most people like her. They listen to her music, they're inspired by her music. I'm inspired by her music. So trying, even like having the faith in yourself that you can change the community, you can do it. People of color have not destroyed the world. They have not destroyed this country. They have done an effort to build up the country. They have done so many things where so many governments, not only the United States, governments around the world, they're just, they hate other countries for some reasons, and they're making their people, and they're making a big impact on their people thinking and ideas, and they're making people to be hating the other groups, which is a very wrong thing to do. I came to the States. I thought, to be honest, personally, I thought there was no racism in the United States. I know you're laughing, that's right. So when I came to the States, I thought there was no racism, but I found out that there is racism not only in Saudi Arabia, not only Middle East, but it's in, no, you're good. So it's in everywhere in the world. I've been in so many states. I've been in the south, in the north, in the west, in the east. I have faced racism. I have faced people who will be thinking that I'm a terrorist. People who would be like ignoring my questions if I come up to them and ask them like for direction or something. But like from the look they give me, it's like why you come and asking me this question? They're not even willing to help. And to be honest, I have found really nice people. I have so many American friends. University of Mount Union is a very good example of diversity, equality between people. And they have in their website their diversity statement, which says, at the University of Mount Union, we continuously strive to welcome, accept, and respect all people. Having such a statement in the university, when people read it, they would know that the university would love to treat people equally. They would love community. They would love to have diversity. And in Dr. Ivory's class, I have learned that people should be treated the same. We should have no racism. We should change people's thoughts about racism because we are all human. Nobody was born. They did not have the choice of to be what they are. Nobody had the choice. Nobody had the choice to choose their color. Like, we're all a human. We all came to this life. We had no choice of choosing our colors, our beliefs. We should all respect each other. We should all have respect and faith in everyone. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, the 4 things I do not tolerate: greed, selfishness, indifference, and prejudice are the 4 things. They need to keep that to themselves. You can be a better person. I learned that very young.
That's good. Anyone has any comment, question, concern?
You can ask them anything. They're students. Abdulla is from Saudi Arabia.
What part?
From the south of Saudi Arabia. I'm from a small town.
And Hope is from, where are you from? Ohio?
Yep.
Okay. Alright.
I left this town in '77.
Alright. Well,
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
good job. You guys did a good job.